Hi everyone, you're watching the Haider Rifaat Show and I'm your host Haider Rifaat. In today's exclusive episode, I've been joined by someone who needs no introduction. We are very familiar with her work. It's none other than Armeena Khan. Thank you so much, Armeena, for taking out time for this interview.
Thank you so much for having me. I know we've been planning for such a long time and now finally our schedules have matched. So I'm very excited to be here and having this chat with you.
Definitely, likewise. Now, Armeena, you have been very vocal about your eating disorder on social media, and that's something that celebrities really shy away from talking about, especially when it comes to their personal life. So, firstly, how do you cope with an eating disorder living in the public eye 24/7, number one? And number two, will your experience kind of help open this dialogue when it comes to people, especially from the media fraternity, people sharing their experiences, talking about their personal health issues, and also beyond that?
Okay, so Heather, there's one thing that really irks me. I'm going to talk about the term vocal. You know, in the Pakistani industry, I feel it has negative connotations, especially, you know, coming from a female actor.
Yeah.
So what I would say is I like to offer opinions, and obviously I research them well and make sure that there's a semblance of logic and facts, you know, whenever I offer any opinion in the public sphere. Sometimes things are obviously misconstrued and things are attributed to me, which, you know, I've not said or, you know, twisted in a way. You know, vocal being one of them. The headline will read like Armeena Khan slams this person or is very vocal about this. And so I feel it takes away from the message because, you know, I'm being set up to being shot down before I've even attempted to, you know, address the issue at hand. So today I'm going to be offering you opinions, and by no means they're not set in stone, because obviously I'm not an expert on anything. These are primarily my own experiences and whatever I deem the world to be around me. Mm-hmm. So I just want to set the record straight about the eating disorder. I had it. It's in the past now, past tense. It was a small phase of my life, and I attribute it mainly to lack of experience, lack of guidance, not knowing how the industry works. It's almost akin to being thrown into a deep end of the pool and learning how to swim suddenly. You know, you're floundering about, you're trying to make sense of the direction, which way you're supposed to go, how deep is this water? There are no guidebooks to tell us how you're supposed to behave in the public stratosphere. I was just a regular civilian, if you like, before, you know, I was shoved into this whole fame and in front of the TV. And so I had a lot of trouble with a lot of things, you know. I had no one from the showbiz, into showbiz from my family. My only run-in with celebrities was through secondhand accounts of someone else. So I had zero idea. And so you can imagine the pressures that came with it. You know, you are to look stick thin, you know, on screen, because the public does not, I'm sure they don't know that when you're filming and when you're on the screen, you tend to put on something like 10 to 20 pounds on screen, you know. So actors tend to be smaller in real life to look normal on screen. And I mean, I was already a very, you know, thin little girl, you know, very young, no experience of the world apart from academia and corporate, you know, with my business studies, nothing more. And and the beauty industry and the acting world, it swallowed me, you know. And it took a whole, like, there was a lot of introspection there was a lot of research. There was a whole evolution physically and mentally for me. And as I realized how things were, I started discarding the things that were um, like almost abusing my body in a way, you know. And I started to understand, and I did away, and my primary focus at that point started with nourishing my body and my mind, because I need these two things. I need my body for the energy that I need for the screen, and for obviously my brain for being able to deliver my dialogue. And I was having trouble with both at one point. Coming back to the second part of your question, whether it's going to start any kind of a conversation in my industry. Well, why would it? We're not ready to have these conversations yet. You know, we're still stuck on the whole size zero thing when the West has moved on. You know, there are things in place, there are measurements in place, even for models, for example, in France, where they'll measure their waists to make sure that the girls are not malnourished, you know, and if they're underweight, they will not take them for any jobs. So I think somewhere in our search for the meaning of life, we've internalized perhaps that Instagram is our life, or being skinny is our life. But really, you know, the moment we're born, we're dying. And what we need to do is invest in the right things that are not going to hurt us in the long run. And health and relationships are two things that aren't going to leave you in the long run. And like you just have to pay attention to that. So if I had a daughter, I would just tell her very frankly that, look, the beauty industry is out to prey on your insecurities, and they revel and make profit out of the feeling that you feel ugly and inadequate. They're going to make profit out of that. So beware that you don't fall prey to these unrealistic beauty standards. I mean, I'm in the media and I fell prey to this, you know, so imagine like what a young girl of 13, 14, what would she be thinking? You know, I really fear for the world that in the direction that we're going in. I hope it changes. And, you know, I've accepted my body as it is, as I stepped into my 30s. And there's a right way to exercise, there's a right way to eat, and none of it's, yes, killing yourself in the gym, you know, 7 days a week. It really is not as hard as that. It's quite simple, but it's just a case of, I suppose, educating oneself and understanding the world around us, because not everyone means us well.
Right. Now, Armeena, don't you feel that because of these unrealistic expectations that the media industry and the beauty industry are putting forth for these young girls and also boys, that's primarily why people are not able to relate to the products they use, or the celebrity endorsements, or the celebrities themselves as well?
You have to understand that, again, it ties into what I was saying earlier about the beauty industry making a profit out of our insecurities. I mean, we need to have real conversations about what kind of an impact our work has on young people, vulnerable people. And until we're ready to accept that there are things that are maliciously wrong, and then begin to address them, we're not going to go anywhere, because we're even failing to acknowledge that we have a problem. I cannot alone tackle this entire thing, you know, this whole fraternity brands. I cannot do it on my own. I need support. You know, I'm only one person. Back in 2011, 10, when I was in India, I was just starting out as an actor. I was offered a fairness cream brand. It was a very lucrative, very, very lucrative contract. But I had the sense even then to understand that perhaps I'm not in a position to tell someone that, oh, the color of your skin is less than satisfactory or inadequate or is not up to the mark for me.
Hmm.
I don't understand. It's a bit of common sense, and why would anyone want to make profits out of such things that they know are harmful? And it it reflects in my endorsements. I don't endorse anything that's less than wholesome. You know, you will never find me anywhere near fairness creams or anything that hurts you in any way. If I have in the past, I've corrected it very, very quickly. So that's what I'm about. Like, I personally am trying to be very conscientious around my work, to sometimes the detriment of my career. There are others who are beginning to start the conversations, the younger actors that are coming in, and some of the veterans who were too afraid to be vocal before. They're coming into the foray, and conversations are being had, but not enough. We need to amp it up a little bit.
So, Armeena, when it comes to social media, criticism is bound to follow, whether it's wanted or unwanted criticism. So, how do you handle criticism that aims to put you down?
So, firstly, I'm going to talk about how, before venturing into the whole media business, I was just a regular person, just like everyone else. There was no guidance, or there was no Bible, for me to read up on and then tackle my newfound fame, suddenly with those guidelines. And so I won't gaslight myself by saying that I don't feel things. I do. Naturally, I'm a very sensitive person, so I'll feel things tenfold than, say, a normal person would. So it's been a real struggle, Heather. And I can confidently say that a lot of public figures ultimately at some point do suffer from this. For myself, recently, I was, if you go under the YouTube comments, for Mohabbat Chahate, for my latest role with Tara, I was body shamed, called fat and ugly and old and God knows what. And after you've put so much in, you've put sleepless nights in, and this is the kind of response that you get for the first episode. It was really heartbreaking. Now, the thing is, I'm curvaceous. I own, um, my body, and I'm not unhealthy at all. I am the best version of myself that I can be. What they saw in perhaps things like Bin Roy or the very early projects that I had, I was literally emaciated underneath all those mountains of clothes. I put up that picture that you alluded to the first question. I was 39 kgs, and that was dangerously low. Like I'm gonna be open here, and I'd stopped my monthly cycles because of that. I stopped eating. That's how dangerous it was. And what it does is, in the long run, it messes your metabolism up. You can develop osteoporosis. As women, you can have breakages, and you really feel this as you enter into your 30s. Now, it was heartbreaking for a time, but then I realized I've not gone through this entire evolution, and I've not conquered all of these demons just to be dragged down again. And just came back into myself, and I'm like, right, this is me now. You're not gonna get that old version who was emaciated and killing herself. I was killing myself. I was living on one apple a day. Go figure. For months at an end. Um, Fainting on sets, and having no energy to deliver my dialogue. It really, really affected my performances and my ability to take on more projects because I was so exhausted all the time. I had to turn down a lot of work. So I think that now certain systems need to come in place to protect people. I saw social media as a great way to receive feedback, but somewhere along the line, It's become this whole toxic mix of insecure people projecting their failures and insecurities onto others. Because when you say an unkind word about someone else, that's actually perhaps yourself reflecting your own self onto the other person. So there's a way to be kind. I keep saying to people, in a world where you can be anything, be kind, be kind, be kind. You don't know what battles the other person on the other side of the screen is facing.
Okay, so Armeena, you're very selective when it comes to signing projects. So do monotonous scripts and tedious storylines have something to do with that particular decision when it comes to signing a particular project?
So Heather, here's a truth bomb. I know that a lot of the actors get asked a similar question about being selective with their scripts. But the truth of the matter is that I was lucky enough at one point in my career to be selective. But again, it's a privilege that doesn't last very long. And the truth is that you have to work with what you're given. And being the conscientious actor, what happened is because of destructive scripts that weren't empowering enough, that weren't contributing anything to society. What happened is 3 years ago, I literally stopped working because none of them were ticking all the boxes. Lots of people were like, well, why did you disappear? This was the reason. After my play about human trafficking on, with Daldal on Hum TV, the scripts that were coming my way were more of the same, with the Rona Dhona, the Saas Bahu, the everything. Like 25 scripts, all the same. That's a big number of scripts, and all of them have a similar storyline, affairs, you name it. And it's like, okay, some of these are going to be shot well, guaranteed. You have the same Gisi Pitti storylines, on running on amazing channels, shot beautifully with really, really high budgets. But ultimately, if you strip the story down, it's still boy meets girl, fall in love. Oh, there's a twist, there's a hook. Throw in another person, or maybe throw in an evil sauce or like an evil character. Why is it that so many of our television characters are so mentally disturbed? They all seem to have mental health issues. Why is it that someone is evil for the sake of being evil? Where are the backstories? Where are the intelligence scripts? Now, the other interesting thing is you do get the odd wonderful script, and it's shot right, it's executed right, and it sits well with the audience, wonderful. But then I really question some of the projects that are the storylines are mediocre and yet are runaway hits. I've never understood that. On one side, the audience is shouting and screaming for our production houses and our writers to change the narrative. And yet, on the other hand, they're feeding back by watching the same old storylines. So in business, you know how it is, supply and demand. If there's demand, there's going to be supply. Why would anyone want to eat into their profits? And if something is making them a profit, why would they step outside of that box? And then I realized that that's not how media works, and there's very, very few people who get to choose the scripts that they get, and that's the sad truth. So this is where we are.
True. Now, Armeena, in Sun's entertainment fraternity, there are obviously so many issues, but what are those particular ones that you feel so strongly about that are not really being highlighted enough in the mainstream media?
So there are quite a few things, Heather. In England, we have something called equity, which is like an actors union. All the actors are protected under that. You'll have heard of it. From their pay, minimum wage, to how they're treated on sets, producers and directors and production houses are held accountable. Contracts are obviously, when you sign contracts and, if you need to take someone to court, you're protected that way. In Pakistan, we don't have any of these, or nothing that's effective in a way. As in, like, I've heard stories about actors. I've seen some of my co-stars, for example, having trouble with their checks for their hard-earned, it's their hard-earned money. Like, why should you have to go and beg, oh yeah, please, like, oh, check de do, it's like, it's just so wrong, and it hits your dignity. So there's obviously there's lack of professionalism, because where I come from, time is money. And if I'm given 7 a.m., then I will show up at 7 a.m. You will not find me walking on set at 3 p.m. And I really, really wonder about the people. Is it disrespect, or is it what is it that we take it so lightly? Because being on screen is a privilege, and one should not take it lightly. But it ties in with the whole, it's a vicious cycle for everything, because when there are no rules, then anything goes. This also ties in with the long working hours. There's no set hours. I mean, that's changing now with actors demanding like more set working hours. But I've been on sets where, my goodness, I've had to work 36 hours straight, and absolutely collapsing. And and it's been for nothing. It's not that it's been anything particularly of importance, but just because you're running out of time, when you failed to time manage from the start. So time management is a big thing. Actors' rights, and then of course another big thing is female sexual harassment on sets. I know lots of people don't talk about it. It's a bit of a taboo, but you'll see that this will come to light as we progress further, and like our industry grows. More and more actresses will come forward and talk about their experiences. Finally, I feel that space also needs to be given to experts when there is an important issue at hand. Of course, invite a celebrity, but my opinion does not replace that of a specialist or someone who is qualified in that field. So I think we need to kind of clear the way for some of those, and make sure that our opinions are only taken with a pinch of salt, because ultimately they're just our opinions, no matter how researched.
Okay. Now, Armeena, you have obviously had been traveling back and forth for the onset productions for your drama. So obviously it was during the pandemic. So how has COVID-19 really changed your perspective on life overall?
So, Heather, there was a world before COVID, and certain things worked, certain things didn't. And I've had a whole paradigm shift, in this year of lockdown. I've realized the importance of relationships, about my health, how susceptible I am to, and how fragile our system is. One click and it's broken. We're suddenly prisoners in our own homes. We can't see our parents. I haven't seen my parents in over a year. This is how severe it is, for example. And there are others like me, in this fight. And I just realized the whole thing is so fragile. And I think that there are certain things that I would not want back, when we come out of this pandemic. The things that were broken, let's leave them there, and let's focus on things that are wholesome, like relationships, like our parents, like our health. And one of the funny things at the end of it was I ended up becoming a fan of the last days of the Roman Republic. I discovered many characters like Cicero, like Pompey, like Caesar, getting into their lives, and how politics in back 2000 years ago affect or like they're so similar to today's politics, and they gave me a lot of context to a lot of things, and they're applicable to every little bit of our life. And so this is how I've changed. It's like I said, it's been a whole paradigm shift. I could go on forever if I were to talk about each and every change.
Armeena, what is one thing that bothers you most about being an actor, specifically in Pakistan?
There are quite a few things, but there's one that stands out to me quite a lot, and that is the utter disrespect for female Pakistani female actresses. I don't understand again, where this comes from, but I feel that we are given less respect in comparison to foreign actresses.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I just wish that, we were given an equal footing, because we work, I think, harder than anywhere else in the world, given the type of working conditions, the type of schedules. I mean, I can't even speak of the difficulties when we're filming. So I think a little bit of respect for us would go a long way. The same thing a foreign actress could be doing, and it would be oohs and ahs, and the moment we do it, it's like, oh, are you Muslim? That's the first question that you're hit with. I'm an entertainer. What do you want from me? so I think respect is lacking, and I think that needs to change.
And also, Armeena, I feel as though our definition of heroism is kind of misunderstood in the industry and also in the country, because we attribute heroism to having a perfect body, having a perfect face, and then again, what we spoke about earlier, unrealistic expectations. So why don't you think that it's high time that the definition of heroism evolves in Pakistan and we stop attributing these, having a perfect face or having a perfect body to heroism?
I think, Heather, this question ties in with everything that I've been saying over the course of this interview. It's a great observation, but again, it's unmerited credit, attributed to places and positions given undeservedly. And that's where you get this. I mean, okay, figure and like good face, good looking face, it's a prerequisite, but not for every role. There needs to be space there needs to be diversity in our roles. Old, young, the concept of the hero needs to be done away with, and an actor needs to come in, because what is a hero? Like, okay, you're alluding to a protagonist. Why are you attributing godlike qualities to a human being where it's undeserved? It's only a character that you're playing. But again, I'll come back to the original point that, until we're ready to have the conversations, acknowledging that certain things are not right, they're broken, and we need to move on from that. And these sorts of conversations need to come in from all quarters, not just from actors. It needs to be from the whole fraternity. So.
Right, rightfully said. And Armeena, very lastly, towards the end, any personal life experience that you would like to share with the viewers that can maybe, invoke some positivity in their lives and also encourage them or motivate them? Something that you've learned from.
I think there's nothing more that I can think of than a quote here, because it encapsulates everything. It's one of my favorite quotes, actually. It goes something like, "Dear past, thank you for all the lessons, and dear future, I'm ready."
Perfect. Thank you so much, Armeena. It was a pleasure talking to you and having you on my show.
Thank you so much for having me, Heather.
Of course. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this interview. For more information and feedback, you can always subscribe to my channel and also stay tuned on my Facebook page. That is all for now. Stay tuned for more. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.